Look, all I'm saying is, what kind of sick individual names a reindeer after a group of people that cannibalized themselves in a mountain somewhere? But I digress. Yeah, if you're just joining us, Scary Christmas from us here at Necro Radio. The Ghoul-tide season, when loved ones gather to fill stockings and decorate ginger dead men. What a crock. But the all-powerful producers here at Necro Radio insist that I play some tapes from the dreaded Christmas draw. Much to my chagrin. Let's get this over with. We'll start with this one, which I, of course, took careful time and consideration to choose from the lot. Our first story is a relatable one for many, I'm sure. The common struggle to arrive home in time for the holidays. For most, the delay arrives in the form of faulty transport or lousy weather. But for the fellow in our tale, he is met with a far more horrid and hazardous hindrance. This tale is titled, I Won't Be Home for Christmas.
I wake up to the smell of rot dancing around and clinging to the inside of my nostrils. The foul smell of roadkill mixed with decaying, earthy undertones, like someone's sick idea for a new fragrance. I quickly snap to, in a daze, and realize how dire my situation has become. I search my body, patting my hands quickly and awkwardly over my extremities, and I am happy to feel that all is accounted for. My head is pounding, though. I rub the new bump now forming in the center of my forehead, already protruding like a unicorn's horn. What the hell? I ask aloud to no one in particular. The wind is blowing hard outside my car, and icy snowfall peppers the driver's side window. I unbuckle the seatbelt and look around, trying to piece together what led to this predicament. Somewhere I must have hit an icy patch, then slid off the road through a convenient gap in the guardrail and down the embankment, landing somewhere within the tree line. I'm surprised that I didn't roll all the way down, and I count myself lucky. I'm surrounded by blankets of white. I'm not even sure which direction leads back up to the road. I was coming down the 87 from Whiteface Mountain, headed towards my childhood home. You see, it has been a few years since I have been home for Christmas. I usually just send my mom a new set of oven mitts or something, although I can't afford a lot more than that. I don't even send a card. This year, I had met up with some old friends at a lake to do some ice fishing. Well, under the guise of ice fishing at least. The reality is that I hadn't seen these guys since grad school, nor did I really ever intend to see them again. After graduation, I just left everyone and everything behind. That's just what I do. I was supposed to start my perfect life. Things weren't supposed to be like this. My old roommate Dave had called me out of the blue, talking about an offer that I just couldn't refuse. You see, even though I have my degree in business, I am pretty strapped for cash. But we all needed a solid alibi, hence the ice fishing charade. Dave was more paranoid than any of us. Understandably so, it was his employer. He kept repeating that all we had to do if anyone came asking was stick to the story. Why was I so stupid? I'm not this kind of person.
Please be home for Christmas.
My mom had said to me on our last monthly phone call.
You will be home, won't you?
Her voice was like that of a whipped dog, almost begging. Yeah, Mom, I will try. She'd heard all of this before. Empty promises on my part. I'm a master at breaking my own mother's heart. Selfishly, I put off time with my family for too long. Why did I get my mom oven mitts? Why hadn't I put in more thought? She gave me the gift of life, and all I give her in return is some bowl? And I hate myself for it. She deserves better from her only son. But I force these thoughts aside and try to focus my whirling mind on the problem at hand. I put the car in drive and rev the car forward, then shift to reverse and rev backward, trying to rocket free from the snowdrift. I do this multiple times. I know this is useless, but I attempt it anyway. Come on, you bastard, I say aloud to the car, though I'm really just scolding myself. I drop my head against the steering wheel in defeat and wince at the forgotten pain on my forehead. You idiot! Why did you take the money? Why didn't you just go home for Christmas Eve? Suddenly, from far off, I hear it.
Ho, ho, ho! Ethan, Merry Christmas!
I look up from the steering wheel to see a familiar man in a red Santa suit far off through the trees. And he's waving. His voice sounds soft, almost getting lost and carried away in the wind. Dad? I question uneasily.
Come here, my boy.
He beckons me with his free hand. His other has yet to stop waving.
Have you been a good boy this year?
No, Dad. I haven't been a good boy in a very long time.
Come on, my boy. What are you waiting for?
This comes out almost aggressive in a sickening tone. I know it's not him, but I feel compelled to follow his orders. Sir, yes, sir. I reach for the door handle and start to pull it back, and then I stop and shudder. What am I doing? That thing is not your father, the voice in my head tells me, yet I already know this. My father's been dead for years. Though this thing, this mimic, whatever it is, clearly doesn't know that. My father was a stern military man, yet he would always soften around the holidays. Christmas was his favorite. He was always more loving and warm around this time of year. Whatever this thing was, probably heard my inner dialogue and realized its mistake. Santa was suddenly wiped clean with a blanket of white and was gone. But there was something still there. I could almost make it out in the flurry of white outside my windshield. High above, tall in the trees. Something was just standing there, like it was pretending to be one of them. It's just a tree. I say this out loud, not even realizing I had done so, but I know that is not the truth. Suddenly, I'm a child again. I'm warm and toasty. I see my mother bring thick slices of her famous strawberry rhubarb pie on plates of fine china. My father stokes the fire unsatisfied and throws in another log, and continues his story from the war. The rare kind of story of things that went well. When he and his friends got out of sticky situations unscathed, and I am lying on my back on the floor with my feet pressed to the hearth, toasty and warm. Maggie, my brown Labrador, tugs at my candy cane-adorned pajama leg with playful gentleness. Then another tug. And then another bigger tug follows suit. Then a straight jerk as I start to hear myself scream. The sound of tearing flesh, my own flesh, brings me to. I look down at my legs to see two Maggies pulling my legs in opposite directions. A rabid tug of war. I instinctively reach with both hands, but find that motion impossible with two more Maggies at each arm, ripping and tearing, trying to pull me apart. No, not Maggies at all, but gray wolves in the darkness. Icy, windswept snow pelts my face, stinging little ice needles. And all I wonder is how the hell did I get outside of the car? I don't remember even opening the door. Then I feel one of the wolves clamp down on the back of my neck. It tears through flesh with its large canines, and I gargle a scream stifled by blood. Then suddenly, the smell of strawberry rhubarb pie. My mother hands me a plate, and I take a bite without removing my gaze from the fire. I'm hypnotized and lost in the wonder of it all. Something sweet at the side of my lips trickles in, and I lap it up and savor the warmth. I chuckle and choke on my blood at the thought. In the distance, something fumbles forth. A hazy outline of what I can only describe as a massive, slender being. Like that of a dark silhouetted stick figure contrasted with a backdrop of white. Its head is adorned with elk antlers the size that any avid hunter would be proud to hang on their walls. Dangling from each point are dried, bloody sinew skins of velvet. They've been there a long while. It doesn't hide in the facade of my father's skin anymore. It wants to be seen, and it makes itself known to me. In my terror, it would have me be witness to its grandiose yet withered frame. Its strange majesty. I am in awe with horror, yet I cannot look away. It is starving. I know this because it tells me this in the voice of my father.
I am hungry, Ethan, my boy. Bring your father a plate. Feed your father now. Be a good boy.
In my mind, I hear it as clear as if it were spoken aloud. Even above the howling of the wind and the greedy growls of the wolves gnashing at my breaking body. It has gone without for too long. It has been a long and unforgivingly cold winter. And its heart is set on the meal that chance has placed before it. I don't fight anymore, nor do I try to scream. There's a crazy calm that sinks deep within me. Something nestled like a present under the tree. It's all wrapped up and neat with a bow. A strange comfort that only dying can bring. And I give into the scene and offer myself up to the thing that looms unwavering above me. It beckons me with its long fingers like twisted dead branches in the wind. With one long finger, it mimics a gesture of silence to its lips. My mother in my mind gestures the same as I am whisked off to a long sleep. The wolves disperse and are gone in an instant, leaving their kill for what is clearly the alpha. The great looming thing buckles over with crackling sounds like the snapping of distant twigs. It picks me up, and I am infantile again as it cradles me in its long arms. It holds me close in a sick embrace. The stench of maggoty rot hits me square in the face. I can almost taste the rancid meat. It's overwhelming and all-encompassing. I can feel its center of mass against me, cold and rough like the bark on the trunk of a tree. Nothing beats inside, save for the occasional pounding of my own heart, echoing against hollow wood. Slowing, calming, silent. The thing salivates. It cranes its cervid head in close, and for a split second I can see the empty sockets where eyes should be. So deep and dark that no light can abide there. Just the endless depths of emptiness. And to think of a dead deer struck by a car and left to die on the side of the 90 along the Mohawk River. Left to rot there. Rot. Like the Christmas dreams of a child that's long left such things behind. Its jaw unhinges with the cracking sound of twigs underfoot. Its withered, frostbitten tongue laps at the blood on the side of my face, and it savors the taste of copper pennies.
It is okay,
my father says.
We are here,
my mother says. And with a last struggled breath that gets lost in the whirling winds of the storm, I manage a murmur. I guess it's safe to say I won't be home for Christmas.
Let that be a lesson, that there are far more things to fear this time of year for naughty little boys than just a lump of coal in your stockings. Tell that story to the kids. That'll shape 'em up. Although, the idea of some old fat man watching you every moment of every day is equally unsettling. What a perv. Now for our second story. This one's a classic. Picture this, if you will. A wintry English countryside nearing the end of the 19th century. This one's sure to scare the dickens out of you. This classic is called A Christmas Scarol.
Christmas Eve, and the nearing of the end of another calendar year. The type of year less interesting to myself, the end of the fiscal year being of more importance. And this year's had been fruitful indeed. I took great pride in my accomplishments, and would allow myself a proper pat on the back for the exceptional generosity of the Christmas bonuses handed out to my inferiors. Let no man say that Rhys Howell was not a man of charity. I was settling in for a quiet evening in my modest country home. I had arranged for a carriage to take me in the morning to my estate, where my children would be converging with my numerous grandchildren for a picturesque Christmas morning. But tonight was for me, a quiet, introspective night, to toast to myself with top-shelf drink for another year of building a legacy to last generations. I sat near the fire in my tall, backed chair as the gramophone spun a beautiful tune, my pipe in one hand and a brandy in the other. This was my Christmas tradition, a solitary pilgrimage to my childhood home, to truly appreciate the ascension of my real estate empire. It was a small 3-room cottage, a timid housing for a family of 7 growing up. The home could fit itself 10 times over in my estate, but it had been my home nonetheless, and filled with memories. Memories and ghosts. The snow was falling softly outside the sash windows. Then a soft knocking at my front door. The hour was late into Christmas Eve, an odd thing to have a visitor. I furrowed my brow and stood from my chair, clenching my pipe in my jaw, placing my brandy on the mantel. I walked to the door and opened it. Standing at the precipice was an older man with thick sideburns and a stovepipe hat. His face was half buried in a thick scarf, his shoulders hunched, his arms half raised, and in his hands were reins. And at the end of the reins was a tall figure draped in pure white sheets, almost 2 meters tall, with an equine skull protruding from the top, adorned with ribbons, holly leaves, and berries. At first I was startled at the sight, but its familiarity soon struck me. "What's this, then?" I asked to the man in the snow. He did not venture a reply. He only stared at my shoes, yet seemed to be seeing something of some other substance, and far off. It was only when the horse skull reared forward and snapped at me he reacted and tugged at its reins, pulling it back. I knew this charade and the practices that came with it, a tradition my mamgi had introduced me to, not continued by my parents after her passing. Something that I had not thought of since youth, but what devil had sent them? In years past, I had received the occasional chorus of carolers, typically sent by my secretary, but this was unprecedented. I knew what was to come next, a contest of rhymes and song, so I held my hand up, a gesture to stop it before it would even begin. "Spare me, I beg you. Come in, marry Lwyd, and let us be done with it," I said to the figure. I opened the door fully and stepped to the side, beckoning with my arm. The old man only then met my gaze, and there was a moment of familiarity I felt, like a name on the tip of your tongue. The man dropped the reins and slowly turned and waddled off into the snow. The Murray Lwyd ducked its head to enter and shuffled awkwardly forward. Whoever was underneath had feet that seemed to each have minds of its own. I pulled a chair from the small dining table and dragged it near the fire. "I have not any sweets, only a basket of fruits gifted me yesterday," I told it as it waddled to the chair and slowly sat. I set the basket of fruits on the small table between us and lowered myself into my chair. I wait for a moment for the person beneath the drapery to speak, but they do not. Well, aren't you supposed to tell me some sort of story or a limerick of some kind? I say between puffs from my pipe. There is another pause of silence before a curiously small hand appears from within the folds, stretching out 2 fingers.
I have 2 tales to share,
they whisper dully from within. I purse my lips around my pipe and hope the tales are quick, hoping that I can receive this gift and then send the performers on their way to report the success to whomever sent them and be left to my solitary traditions.
The first of my tales is of the greatest gift one could receive this holiday.
The whispers from within begin.
There was once a young boy who lived among the streets, an orphaned tramp. He was born to a woman of the flesh, sired by a faceless patron among the countless that visited her bed. His mother met God's embrace far too early in his years, and he was condemned to a youth of struggle and horrors few could understand.
The performer beneath paused with their story, and I marveled at how drab this particular story began. Then a small hand parted the shrouds to grab an apple from the basket and pulled it within before they continued.
Year after year passed of cold, lonely winters. One of these winters, on the year of the boy's ascendance to adolescence, he had been rummaging for a scrap to eat in the leavings beneath a window of a homestead, and ventured a glance through its pane. He saw a loving family gathered around a festive tree before a warm fire. They adorned the tree with fabrics and dried fruits. They laughed with each other and hugged one another, and the boy's heart ached. He dropped to his knees under that window and prayed to St. Nicholas. He prayed for a family of his own. His prayers were heard by the father of the home, who wrenched the door open and shouted for the boy to scurry off. The boy ran and rounded the street corner too quickly in his fear. The boy tumbled to the ground with a woman dressed in her highest finery. The man walking with her pulled her to her feet and shouted in protest at the boy's actions. But upon seeing the boy's tears and distress, their hearts were softened as they were reminded of the son they would have had, and how his age would be close to that of this boy standing before them if fever hadn't taken him in infancy. And so they took the boy in to give him a proper meal and a place to sleep for the night. But only for one night, they insisted, until the weather worsened the next day. So another night they relinquished, and then another, and so on, until they realized that they could not possibly go another night without the boy. And so St. Nicholas answered 2 prayers that Christmas and gifted them all with a family that they had prayed for, some aloud and others within their hearts. And they lived happily with their new son until the end of their days. Thus is the greatest gift one could receive on Christmas.
The merry Lwyd sat quietly, allowing the story to settle. I nodded. A heartwarming tale, I said, sipping my brandy and waving my hand to encourage the next story to begin. Another hand emerged from the drapery, again holding up 2 fingers. They said,
My second tale is of less warmth, I must lament. There was once a young man who had to say his final goodbyes to both his loving parents within a fortnight. Left with their beautiful lakeside estate that had remained within their family for generations, the man was confronted with an unexpected inheritance. Having no wife nor progeny of his own, he pondered at what one man could do with so many empty rooms. upon one winter night, on a solitary walk in the snow, he saw a small boy buried beneath the refuse of the streets, trying to escape the cold through any means. And he was struck with purpose. The man decided there, in that moment, that no other child would experience the early youth he had endured. With what remained of his familial inheritance, he dedicated his estate to become a private orphanage, housing the young boy and so many discarded and ignored children of similar predicament. This orphanage was paramount to him. The man knew he had found his legacy, and he had found true joy. The decades passed, and with it, hundreds of children who lived within the orphanage walls and grew to become respectable members of society. And the man knew nothing but happiness and reward.
The Mari Lwyd paused again and trembled a bit. I suddenly felt a shift in mood, and chills swept through the cottage.
Then, one day,
The performer within continued.
Another man arrived at the orphanage. He appeared to be a man of exceptional wealth and status. This man saw this sprawling estate and its idyllic lakeside location and imagined a far different use for it. Instead of rooms occupied by the destitute and downtrodden, he imagined rooms occupied by other wealthy men and women from far abroad. And so, he made the man an offer for the estates of such a high sum that none could possibly refuse. Yet the man did. For the worth of the estate to him and the orphans far exceeded any number one could offer.
It was at this moment in the story that I could no longer ignore the familiarity. I knew this story. I swallowed, my mouth now gone dry.
The wealthy man took great offense to this rejection and insisted the man reconsider, and upon a second rejection grew angry. With many threats, he stormed from the estate. That winter, the wealthy man returned and, using the financial and political connections at his disposal, forced the transaction, and at a price egregiously disproportionate to the offer previously made.
What is this? I interject, but the Mari Lwyd ignores my words and continues.
The man begs the wealthy man to annul this acquisition. He pleads on behalf of the children that would be thrown back to the cold streets, to suffer and expire, alone and unloved. And the wealthy man cares not. His uncaring, cold heart, filled with gluttonous greed, threw the man and those children to the equally uncaring elements.
Who sent you? I demanded, rising to my feet and throwing my glass into the hearth where it shatters. Be gone from my home, cretin! The Mari Lwyd rises to tower over me.
This man knowingly sent children to their deaths and robbed a good, decent man of the only purpose he ever knew.
I knew I recognized that old codger. I shout defiantly up at the skull. End this farce at once! The Mari Lwyd goes silent. It looms over me and says,
This man who had rose himself from humble beginnings, who should have known, in some relation, the struggle of little warmth and little bread.
I shrunk back at this. My raised finger directed at the shrouded figure began to lower, and my eyes fell to the diminishing flames of the hearth, and I was reminded of my boyhood. of the little amounts of food my family had shared, huddled in front of this very hearth for what little warmth we could glean from it, of the siblings I had lost to illness and malnutrition along my formative years. Yet, amidst all that suffering, there was a reason I returned to this dwelling year after year. I had always thought I had returned here to toast my accomplishments. But truthfully, I now realized it was because in this home I had experienced the most love and happiness. And a buried sense of shame rose up to meet me. I dropped to my knees before the figure, and tears well in my eyes. I stifle a sob and force myself to look up at the empty sockets of the skull towering above me. My life, all my life, I sputtered between sobs. I didn't see. Forgive me, please. I need someone to forgive me. The Mari Lwyd stares down at me, and there is no response for what feels like hours.
You misunderstand our message, sir. Only God forgives.
And at that, the shrouds billow outward, and from within an impossible number of pale children rush towards me, their mouths agape with angry shrieks, their lifeless eyes fixed upon me. I fall backwards as I am swarmed by the horde of youths, and they blot out my vision. White, hot pain erupts from my abdomen, and I look down to see dozens of small hands tearing through my robes and into my flesh. My screams are drowned out by their shrieking as I watch them pull steaming red parts from my person. I feel tiny hands wrench at my limbs from every direction, and pain is accompanied by cracks and pops that only relent when they finally and fully part from me. Then my eyes see nothing but small clawing bloodied hands, and then blackness, and all thought fades, and with it all warmth.
Forget about the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. How about the ghosts of Christmas vengeance? Ha ha! Now I admit, it's not often that both our tales in one night end in bodily dismemberment. But if you can liken these violent ends to the ferocity and savagery in which a child tears through the wrappings of their presents come Christmas morning, I feel they are fitting parables for this holiday. Consumerism, bastardized paganism buried beneath Christian idolatry, and... my apologies. Enjoy your holiday, and your singing vermin, and your hula hoops, and may the new year come quickly, for the love of God. And now, our yearly tradition, a dramatic reading of The Fright Before Christmas by yours truly. It was the fright before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, because of the axe murders. The intestines were hung by the chin with care.
Let's see it.